Don't you just hate monotony, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same results but getting nothing but disaster? That's what Jurassic Park III is. The film has the same characteristics of the original and The Lost World, but this time it just feels really stale and forgettable. But that doesn't mean it's all bad though. There are things in this film worth seeing. This film feels just like a checklist of what a Jurassic Park movie should be like. Dinosaurs check, rain sequence check, raptors is the villain check, and that's all that's in here. It's just things from the other movies thrown in here, and it doesn't work because it's nothing new. It doesn't bring anything new to the table, really. Or there are things I like in this movie. For example, I like the short runtime. This one's only 90 minutes rather than the 129 minutes The Lost World was, or 127 minutes the original was. I mean, the original I didn't mind too much, but the second one, you think, they escaped the island, okay, that's where it should end, but wrong. There's like 25 more minutes when it gets to the T-Rex scene and everything. That was a cool sequence and everything, but it was unneeded. I also liked how Sam Neill was back after being absent from The Lost World. He was probably the best actor in the original, and he's definitely the best actor in this one. And I'll get to those other horrendous people later. Finally, after 2 movies, we finally have a kid that's actually semi-well written. He's not just a whiny little punk like the 2 kids in the original movie or the girl in the second movie. This kid actually survived for like 8 weeks on his own and actually is helpful. Parents, on the other hand, they're a different story, and I will get to them in my list of grievances later. A lot of people didn't like the Spinosaurus too much. I liked it for the most part. There were some areas in this movie where it didn't really work, but again, I'll get to those later. Spinosaurus, for the most part, was actually a really good villain for a dinosaur. It also seems like this movie was intentionally supposed to be stupid, rather than they tried to make it good and it just failed. It looked like it was supposed to be a dumb B-level movie. Of course, they got the king of B-level directors, Joe Johnston, to replace Steven Spielberg, so that was everything I liked. But the unfortunate part of this movie is that the bad outweighs the good, including, as I said before, it's just a checklist, just things that were in the other movie that were thrown into this one. Like, you know, rain sequence, scene of whimsy and wonder, raptors as being the antagonist, and that sort of thing. And it doesn't work. We want to see something new. We want to see, you know, some dinosaurs we haven't ever seen on screen before, which we got with the Spinosaurus, but we want to see some creativity. Remember when I said that Sam Neill was the best part of this? Well, the rest of the cast is useless. Especially William H. Macy and Taylor Leone as the kids' parents. Oh my goodness, they were horrible. If you thought the Transformers parents were the worst, you're still right, they are, but these two are a close second. I mean it, they are a close second. All these 2 people do is scream their kid's name obnoxiously on the island so all the carnivorous dinosaurs can hear it just constantly throughout the movie, and it's like a bad idea according to Dr. Grant. He's like, shut up. And then there's this one scene in there where they do that and then they hear this roar, and then, like, the dad's like, what was that? I'm like, what do you think? You're on an island full of dinosaurs. It's probably a dinosaur. Well, to be fair, they were smart enough to trick Dr. Grant into coming onto this island after he said, nothing on heaven or earth could get me onto that island, except for a paycheck, of course, I guess. They were smart enough to do that. I can't decide if that's funny or sad, really, I can't. I mean, is it funny they were smart enough to trick one of these big, named dinosaur hunter paleontologist guys who's supposed to be this genius about things, and yet they trick him by waving a blank check in his face? I thought that the addition of Billy, Dr. Alan Grant's assistant in this movie, was quite useless. All he does really is to push up the raptors as the main villain again for the 3rd time in a row. Pulls some of the biggest nonsense with Billy towards the end. I mean, he sacrifices himself. You've probably seen the movie where he jumps off with the parachute thing and the pteranodons attack him. Then at the end of the movie, when they're escaping the island, he's just magically on board the helicopter. Doesn't explain why, doesn't explain how they found him. He's just there, and it's something that's always irked me, why he survived when he should not have. It doesn't even, give any inclination of how this happened or is possible. Yes, she totally wastes the T-Rex. In their first meeting together, they have a big fight, and then the T-Rex just dies, and that's it. I mean, the T-Rex was the main draw to the other 2 films, and here it's just wasted. Never seen another T-Rex again in this movie. It's not even, like, a fair fight. It just is. I guess they're trying to showcase that this thing is, like, twice as powerful as the T-Rex. The thing is, she seems to have it out for these people, which she never met, doesn't know anything about them, but yet she's constantly chasing them across this island. Like, there's this one scene in there where, like, they're just sitting there, and all of a sudden she's behind them, like the T-Rex in the original, and then they start chasing, and it's like, what is it with this? And then in the rain scene towards the end, it just pops up out of the water. What is it with her and people? I don't get it. It doesn't explain it. Like the other two movies, there is some serious logic in this movie, even more so than the other two. For example, Sam Neill, as I mentioned before, says, "Nothing on heaven or earth could get me onto the island, except a big check," which turns out to be a blank check, so I guess money always works. Just like in the first film, they just believed John Hammond, and they went on the island. Instead of checking these people out first, he just assumed that William H. Macy's character was this millionaire like he said so. I mean, Hammond, you can kind of tell, yes, he's rich. These people, you should really be looking into that more. Shame on you. Stealing the raptor eggs, which Billy did, turned out also to be another bonehead move. Of course these things are going to come after you. They have a tendency to be really vengeful and protective, and they don't like it when people are messing with them, so of course the raptors are going to attack you. Other people have pointed this out, but the first jump scare in this movie is not scary at all. It's supposed to be scary like Dr. Grant having a nightmare about the raptors from his first visit to Jurassic Park, but it really just turns out to be really goofy and awkward looking. What he's doing here is he's falling asleep on the plane, and then he has his nightmare, and then he looks over to Billy, and Billy has his giant raptor head on saying, "Alan! Alan!" And it's just weird. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be scary, but that's about the level of scare in this movie. It's not as frightening as the original. Like the original movie, like the raptors were pretty frightening when they first pop up on screen. Here they're just kind of goofy and awkward, and not very interesting. Again, these things are fooled pretty easily in this movie, just like the original. This time by that resonating chamber replica thing. They blow on it right in front of the raptor's face, and then it scares them off, like they think another raptor's calling for them. And it's right in front of your face. You can tell that there's not another raptor there. These things really are not as smart as they're claiming they are. I don't think so. Absolute worst things at the end of this movie is the very last shot is them flying on the plane, and then they see the pteranodons, which just tried to kill them a few minutes ago, and like flying past them, and they're like, "Oh, look at those beautiful creatures," and like, they just tried to kill you. They are not beautiful creatures. Those things are murderous, and they're coming to live in your house. Was it all bad? Mostly, sort of. I don't know. It's enjoyable to some degree. I mean, of course it's not going to be as amazing as the original. You know, it was the first time we'd really seen CGI work on screen. But there are some pretty good set pieces in here, I thought. Like the rain sequence with the Spinosaurus towards the end. I thought that was pretty well shot. And there are other things in here, but it's mostly bad. It seems to know it's a stupid movie, and it's short, thankfully. I mean, you're not sitting there for almost 3 hours during this, so that's a good thing. I hope you've been enjoying my reviews on Jurassic Park. I hope to move on to something else. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.